Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Jason Pizzino. Let's jump into today's video. It's 10 things that I stopped buying. I stopped buying because 1, I'm a bit frugal. 2, my friends call me a tight ass. 3, I'm a bit of a minimalist. And 4, I like to save my money and use it for things that are more useful to me. Which leads me to more of the reasons being, if what I'm buying isn't going to add value to my life in terms of happiness or efficiency, then I try not to purchase it. And it's kind of an easy thing for me now, but sometimes there are those little things that come up, especially food. I like to spend a lot of money on food, but I like to say it brings me happiness. Anyway, if it doesn't bring me happiness and efficiency, that's an easy one. I can cut that out straight away. And because I cut it out, I get to save, and then I can put that into other investments, which I find more fun. Like, it brings me happiness to see my accounts go up. It brings me happiness to see the money working for me as opposed to just sort of being flushed down the toilet. So with that said, let's move on to the things that I've stopped buying. And the first thing, believe it or not, is protein powders and supplements. Now, I do like to train a lot. I like to exercise. I've done many videos before where I show that I'm out 2 to possibly 3 hours a day of exercising. So that's the gym, surfing, can be running as well. And I just found that protein powders and supplements are not adding anything to my day. And so when people ask me about food and what they should be eating and what's the protein shake look like after training, I really just say it is a total waste of money. Unless you're at the complete elite end of the athletic spectrum, protein powders and supplements are essentially just getting flushed down the toilet. And they can be super expensive now. $60 a kilo for some of these things. The vegan protein powders going on, the organics, the non-GMOs, like so much advertising and marketing onto these products. And it's really just all crap made in a factory. None of this stuff is super natural like whole foods. So personally, it's something that I've cut out buying. One disclaimer on that would be certain types of supplements. When I'm talking about supplements here, with protein powders, it's more the stuff that you get at your supplement stores. So you pick up your protein powders and your BCAAs and L-carnitine, all these other sorts of bodybuilder crap that goes into it. They do have some minuscule benefit, but for the price you're paying for it, I would rather just eat whole food, and I get much more enjoyment out of eating that whole food as opposed to mixing some powder in water and then drinking that. Supplements that are not included in that would be things like vitamins and minerals that you may be lacking and that you need to take in order to bump your levels up. Moving on to number 2, which is still around health and nutrition, is packaged foods. Like I said just before, I prefer to have whole food. So I prefer to eat a whole steak instead of protein powder shakes and all that sort of stuff. If I'm short on time, I just won't eat. I'll eat later. It doesn't matter about this 30, 45-minute window after gym. I don't think that's really a problem. I haven't seen it to be a problem, so I prefer to eat later on as opposed to taking a protein shake or something else. That to me is still packaged foods. Other packaged things could be things that you put in the microwave, anything that's not a whole food, so maybe it's something that's packaged and you can throw in the oven, or it's a pre-made meal that you can heat up on the stove. Anything like that I tend to stay away from, and I'll make a very simple meal that is nutritious and I find it really easy to take with me if I need to, or it doesn't interrupt my day. It's just quick. I can throw it on in the air fryer or under a grill or something like that. And it's just a whole food, bam, done. So packaged foods, number 2, something that I would cut out. It's just the markup on them is crazy because it's the whole food that they've had to package all together and then sell it to you. There's no gains out of it. They have to make a profit on it. If you think you're making time back and you're using that time efficiently, there's another story about that. But then I look for health, and I would rather go with my own whole foods, because in the packaged stuff, they have to put stabilizers and anti-caking agents to have shelf life. They have to use vegetable oil because that keeps the price down, as opposed to higher quality oils like avocado, coconut, olive oil, animal fats. The higher quality stuff they can't use generally because it's more expensive. Since we're running on the theme of health, fitness, nutrition, and things that I don't spend my money on anymore, let's move on to number 3, and that is clothes. So these are some of the old rags that I continue to wear month after month after month after year, and I pretty much will just throw them out. Sorry about the microphone, I'm jiggling that around. I'll throw them out once these holes get a bit too big. And so that kind of happens because they're just going through the washing machine so often because I just wear them to the gym or out playing some sort of sport. And so they just start to get a bit more worn, a bit more ragged. And there comes a point where I have to get rid of them after all that. So that's what I do. I tend to just wear a lot of my gym clothes around, obviously washed, not smelly straight after the gym. And that saves me on buying a whole other wardrobe to wear when I'm not at the gym. So I'm working from home now. I get to wear my gym clothes. Look, it's different for guys that may be working in offices and they have to get a whole new outfit. But that is another thing to think about if you want to work for yourself. There are all these costs that come down. So when you go to make up your passive income, when you start to work for yourself or you create your own rules for how you do things, it can dramatically bring costs down. So it's just like another whole easy saving. And with that said, moving on to number 4, that would be what I don't buy is a second car. And probably for some, it's kind of like, well, duh, you don't need a second car. But for us, I'm living with my fiance. It's me and her, and we just use one car. And some people might think that's a bit of a pain in the ass to get around with. Fortunately, we haven't found it a problem. It saves on having 2 different registrations, 2 different insurances, 2 different sets of maintenance for a car, the fuel, you name it. It's only just down to 1. What I do to get around that, if we need to be in 2 different places, generally we can work it out. Otherwise, I have a motorbike, and it's cheaper than having a car. It's easy to get around. I absolutely love it. I enjoy riding my motorbike. So it saves on fuel. Fuel is so cheap on that. Even when it's super expensive, it's about $10, and that lasts me a few weeks. It's kind of negligible. You can find a few bucks on the ground and fill the tank up. It's so cheap. Obviously, you've got to pay insurance and registration, but again, that's cheaper than owning a car. So it's kind of a cheap, convenient way to get around. The only downside to that is if it rains, and in that case, we just organize our schedule a little bit even tighter or even better just at those times. But apart from that, motorbike is extremely fun. Parking is cheaper. It's quicker to get places, especially you can get through traffic. You just sort of filter through the lanes at slow speed, whatever's legal in your jurisdiction. Yeah, like I said, parking is fantastic. You can pretty much pull up close to anywhere you need to go and park that bike, squeeze it in somewhere, and it's good to go. Number 5 is books. And books are great to read. I get PDF books online. I have a Kindle, so I can download them for slightly cheaper than the regular price. But the main thing is I used to buy a lot of books. I like to have the physical book. It was just nice to have on the bookshelf. It was almost like I was using a lot of them as furniture. And maybe I'll go back to that one day. But for now, because I move around a fair bit, we travel overseas together, usually once a year for an extended period of time, having so many books really just becomes cumbersome. And I've found that it's just as easy to have it on my Kindle and then also borrow books off friends. There are some friends who like to live in one place, and for example, they just live here on the Gold Coast. Maybe I'll borrow a book off them. It's nice to go through someone else's library and see what they like to read and talk about the books as well. So I found that just another nice thing to not have to worry about buying, and that's books. Number 6, and this is electronics. And I still buy electronics, but what I'm talking about here is brand new electronics. So for example, this is my iPhone 7 Plus. It was about the time when the iPhone 10 was out, I think like the later model. And I just looked at the differences between the iPhone 7 Plus and the iPhone 10. Barely any differences. The iPhone 10 at the time was about 1,800 Aussie dollars, and the 7 Plus that I've got here is about $625. So I could get 3 of these for the same price as an iPhone 10. And really the price comes down pretty considerably within the first new release of the next one. So the iPhone 11's out now, and obviously the 10 has dropped in price. I just don't see the point in spending an extra $1,200 for essentially the same phone when I just use it for apps. I use it to take photos, and providing the camera is good and I've got good service and it all works, what's the difference? So in terms of new electronics, I don't buy the new stuff if I don't have to. And that saves, like you could see, a hell of a lot of money. Same deal with my laptop. So I've got a MacBook Pro 15-inch, the touch bar, like I think it's one of the higher end ones of the 15-inch, and that cost me about $3,200. And at the time, the new one was retailing for about $4,200. Now, I wouldn't recommend, or personally, I don't like to get something that's secondhand, just off Gumtree or for the US guys, Craigslist, stuff like that. This one was a refurbished secondhand from Apple itself, so I still get the warranty on it, and I know that it hasn't been tampered with. I think it's important to have your computer secured, so you don't really want to be getting a secondhand one off someone and you don't know what they've put on there, different software or malware or whatever, and they're logging all of your keystrokes and they can take your passwords and all that sort of stuff. But personally, I'll find the best secondhand stuff I can, whether it's refurbed or factory seconds, and that's my way of saving money on electronics. We're halfway through. Let's move on to number 7. Number 7 is drinks. And so I used to buy juices out, smoothies out, and I know that there wasn't that much value in them, but it just was nice and refreshing at times. But over time, it just got a little bit annoying to continue spending $8 and $9 on these drinks that really don't fill you up, and then you've got to go get a meal, and a meal's $15 or $20. And so just a lunch can turn out to be $40 after you've got a drink and a meal and maybe something else. So for me, having those sort of drinks out, it just doesn't cut the mustard. It doesn't feel like it's value, and I've found it very easy to cut out those sorts of drinks. Having said that, I still like to get coffees out, and for me, $4 on a coffee. They have an espresso machine. I don't have one of those in my house. This is the high-end cafe style machines that get the coffee out just beautifully. So for those type of drinks, every now and then I like it as a treat. But for everything else, I tend to stay away from that. Number 8, and that is stuff on sale. I had a problem in the past where if I saw something that I kind of needed and it was on sale, I would think, oh, maybe I'll just go and buy it now because, well, it's going to be more expensive later. And so, I'll go out and spend the $100 or the $200 or 50, whatever, and then kind of find out you don't really need it. So what I did is write down the things that I do need. And for example, now I need a portable hard drive. So I've done my research on portable hard drives. I'm looking for the SanDisk, SSD, whatever it is. And I know what that is. So I've written that down, and then I just leave it until tomorrow. If I sleep on it and I still need it tomorrow, then it's probably likely that it's something that I actually do need to use. And so I don't need it right this moment, but I will need it in time. And so I can have patience for this to come down in price. And if it goes on sale in the meantime, even better. But in terms of sales that are happening now for things that I don't really need or might need in the future, that sort of stuff, easy to cut out, because essentially if you don't spend the money, it's 100% saving. A super easy one that I don't even know why people my age and younger are still using, but it's taxis. Taxis are something I cut out a very long time ago. If you're in Thailand, that's different because taxis are so cheap. Vietnam, super cheap. But here you can get an Uber or a Didi or a whatever other service there are out there. I think we've got about 3 here now. It's not even a huge city. So I don't understand why people my age and younger are still taking taxis. Taxis are dead. I don't know why they're still there. The licensing that the government puts on there and just jacks the price up. Beyond me why anyone still uses a taxi. Another minimalist saving I have is luggage when I travel. And I travel with 2 backpacks. One on the back, one on the front, but they are not the big 50-litre things. I get a standard school bag size backpack, probably that big. One goes on my back, I hold one on the front, and I can use the front one to put other things in or not. So when I travel, I don't have to pay any luggage fees. And of course, if you have a book with an airline that is full service and includes luggage, you're not going to pay anyway. But traveling through Europe is a real pain in the ass to have luggage that you have to check in and pay for, because there are many airlines, Ryanair, EasyJet, almost all of those low-cost carriers will charge an extortionate amount of money to bring luggage on board. So I learnt that the first time around, about 2016, and every time I've gone back, it's just carry-on luggage only. And the extra money that I would have spent on the luggage, or actually the luggage is way more expensive, is I spend it on getting all of the multiple upgrades to get onto the airline quicker, because they've gotten even sneakier, and this is a side note, is that sometimes you don't even get on the flight. Like, you need to get priority boarding, otherwise you sort of get bumped to the next flight. Paying for luggage is, for me, outdated. I know maybe if you're going to a cold climate, it's going to be a bit different, but primarily I go and travel to hot places. So it's a lot easier in that way to just bring carry-on luggage and save the 50 pounds or 50 euros for extra bit of luggage, which I'm probably not even going to use the stuff that's in that bag anyway. That brings us to number 11. We're nearly there. The 11th thing is multiple gym memberships. And this one might just be like, whoa, who is getting multiple gym memberships? Let's package everything into that and say it's multiple gym memberships, it's extracurricular sports, it's going to do anything else physical, and just cutting it down to something that suits me, because at the end of the day, I want to get really good at something and not have multiple different things that I'm paying 20 bucks, 50 bucks, 10 bucks, $15 for throughout the week and then spreading my energy thin. I want to focus on one thing and do that really well. And so that's been able to cut down the costs for my enjoyment in my health as well. And anything else that I do on the side is generally free. I like to do some hill sprints once a week. I like to surf almost every day. All I have to do is buy a surfboard, and obviously the ocean's free, so I'm out there all the time. So yeah, cutting down on multiple gym memberships is a very big saver, especially in Australia. And the last thing, a nice easy one, is movies. I couldn't care less about the latest movie. I don't care about going into the cinemas. For me, another easy one is to cut out the movies, and it's a huge saving. I believe here in Australia it's $23, $24 to go into the normal cinema. If you find the budget ones, probably like 12 or 13 bucks. But yeah, up around $23 just for the movie ticket. And of course, we all know movie food and popcorn and drinks and chocolates, whatever, are absolutely ridiculously priced. The only time I go to the movies is when I go to Chiang Mai in Thailand, because the movies are so cheap there and you basically have luxury for the price of a coffee here. I think it cost me about $5 to go into a movie there, and you pretty much have the whole two-seater lounge to yourself. Barely anyone's in the movies. It's all the latest stuff, and it's all in English. So yeah, I'll treat myself to a movie when I go over there. But here in Australia, forget about it. Waste of time. That was my top 12 things I've stopped buying, primarily for minimalism and to save money, because I like to use my money in different places. If you enjoyed that, of course, leave a like. Make that little thumbs up, go blue down below, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you can see more of my videos when they come up. Thanks again for joining me. Check me out on Facebook. Go follow me over there if you're interested in learning how to save money, learning how to budget, fixing up your own finances, and being able to create a savings plan so that you can use that money to go and create some passive income. I talk about it all over there on Facebook. All you have to do is follow me there. I also have a Facebook community that you can join. The link is down below. Go and check that out. It's all around personal finance and lifestyle design. Thanks again for joining me on my channel here on YouTube. And remember, until next time, have more fun to get more done.